that is not very good. Look at that! Through the front of the T29 and all we got! Hello you sexy beast and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we are taking once again a look at the T34 for one very simple reason. When I first covered this tank in the dev server, it had massive problems with the gun, being that it only had a single AP shell, which was honestly kind of garbage. It wouldn't produce any spalling, and it had very poor effectiveness against angled armor. This has changed since the tank came out, and as such I have to correct my last video before people actually take that video. It was shot on the dev server and think that this tank still is bad. We are just going to completely skip the armor and stuff review. If you want to see that, you can see the other video. This is all about the ammo and showing you what this actually does. So what Gaijin did is change out the T20E3 ammo that this tank had on the dev server and introduced instead the T14E3. This shell has the same, pretty much the same base properties as the shell on the dev server, with 23 kilograms of mass, roughly the same muzzle velocity at 944 versus the other shell at 945 meters per second. It also has the same base penetration of 247 millimeters at 10 meters and the same drop-off over range. However, the big thing that's changed is the penetration values at angles. At 60 degrees, the dev server shell only has 189 millimeters of penetration. This shell has 222. That's over a 30 millimeter difference in penetration. At 30 degrees, the dev server shell had 89 millimeters of penetration. This one has 102. That's again about a 13 millimeter difference in penetration. On top of that, we also got a second shell added. The T17E1 is the rank 2 shell modification that you have to unlock if you want to use it, and is an APCR shell. This shell has roughly half the weight of the stock shell, travels at 1264 meters per second, and has a pretty massive penetration of 324 millimeters on flat armor. Now keep in mind, this is against flat armor. APCR in War Thunder is notorious for being very bad against angled armor. And as such, whilst you still have a decent amount of penetration at 60 degrees, at 249 millimeters, you can quickly see at 30 degrees you only have 75 millimeters of penetration, and as such you start to get less penetration with this shell than you do with the stock shell. So what I want to show you guys is how these changes actually affect the performance of the tank. Now if you haven't done so, if you haven't watched the first video that we did on the dev server, I do suggest pausing this video right here and go watch that one. Because first you need to know what this tank is all about, since we didn't do a full review of this one. And secondly, you need to have a comparison point between the performance of the shell back then and now. The thing that this thing shared with, for example, the M103 before was that the AP shell, even when it penetrated, would do very little damage. Essentially, you had to directly hit whatever you wanted to damage, and even then there was a good chance of the shell just completely disappearing and being soaked up into the nether regions. But now, well, let's see if I can demonstrate it, shall we? This shell now produces so much spalling, it's actually kind of insane. And this is actually not the only tank. The M103 is producing the same kind of spalling now with its AP shell. Which, interestingly enough, and this is not something I would have ever expected to say, ever, AP shells, at least the AP shell on the T34 and on the M103, yes, these two AP shells are actually usable. Yes, you heard it right. AP shells can actually be used right now.
Allied forces have captured a zone.
Bounce through the upper plate, too much angle. Now of course you still aren't going to go through everything, even though you have better penetration than the stock shell on the T29. Even though you have overall a little bit better performance against angled armor, you still aren't going to penetrate extremely angled armor, it's just not going to happen. However, using the turret wisely, we can hold this down pretty effectively. And given that this thing does so much damage when it does penetrate, it's actually kind of... it's really kind of satisfying playing this thing now, I have to say. It's definitely not as bad as it used to be before. Now, let's see if we can actually get one more kill here. There we go, through the side armor. See, this would never have done any damage before. We would have maybe killed the driver and that would have been it with the stock shell on the dev server. Now, however, this includes so much spawn, you kill everything inside of the tank. And honestly, I really like that. It's awesome. IS-6, we might be able to deal with the IS-6 if we had APCR loaded. I am not sure we can actually deal with the IS-6 with this shell alone. But we can try, I'm tempted to find a nice spot for that. And there we go, Tiger is down. We actually got the ammunition load, which is nice. Ooh, that was lucky. That was lucky. Where did he go in? Can't actually see it. Oh, no, never mind, there it is. Can you see the hole below the gun mantles? Right there. Right there. I was actually lucky to not lose any more crew there. That could have been bad. Oh, you sneaky... Okay, hold on, we have different issues now. Hello. Got only the cannon breach, not quite enough. Let's load the APCR shell. There's a 30 towards the right, which can actually penetrate. Doesn't do us a bit of a disservice if we leave him alone for too long. Which he won't do right now. The I-6 is going back, okay. Advancing too much is probably a bad idea. I don't want to... see, this is the problem. You can't really... You still don't have enough side turret armor that you can deal with multiple different angles at the same time. He did it perfectly well, shot through the side with the through the flat side of the turret. That was a good shot. But I think that still perfectly exemplifies the changes that the T34 has underwent since it was in the dev server. Overall, I do have to say, it is actually quite nice now. Now I know this video was very short and I didn't show you the full potential of this shell, but I think especially that shot against the Panther 2 should have shown you what the shell can now do. I still recommend getting some APCR shells, but not using them as main. Firstly, because you actually have to pay for them, unlike the stock shell. And secondly, because you are rarely going to need the extra penetration unless you're going up against IS-6, for example. The shells are worse against angled armor, and they don't produce quite the amount of spalling that the stock shell does. The stock shell, however, it's actually awesome now. Now, I am tempted to go after the M103 now to see how that thing performs, but I'm slightly worried that it's essentially just going to be the same kind of gun performance at a very much higher battle rating. Special thanks actually to Gaijin for listening to the community and giving it the proper shells that actually make it usable, and not give it this god-awful stock shell that we had in the dev server, which really was not great. So, lads, if you've enjoyed this update, do leave the like rating. If you are new around here, check out the channel for more videos on patch 1.67, and I'll see you in the next video. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay. We can wait right here and play until somehow you can find